Hello, hello. Welcome to Courage Becomes Her, where we connect and share real life stories. I'll talk with women whom I love and I'm inspired by, women who are experiencing life just like you and me. I'm excited for us to gather together and cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in life and work.
I would encourage people to really flex the muscle of putting effort into your friendships, either new or existing ones. Noticing now that it's going to take some effort to get together, defaulting to yes instead of no. I know there's a lot of memes out there that encourage us to say no from a self-care perspective. And they're speaking to this crowd we're talking about. They're speaking to busy, overworked, exhausted women who do need to put ourselves first. And I get that. I also think that has swung a little bit too far to a point that it's damaging our relationships. When you always default no, or when you put up these self-imposed boundaries around activities or your sleep or your commitment, that's fine for a season. It's fine if you really need to hunker down and really take care of things, but you have to understand that will come at a cost at some point.
That was Laura Tremaine. I am delighted to have Laura join us today for this episode of Courage Becomes Her. So a little bit about Laura for those of you who may not be familiar with her. She is a writer, an avid reader, and a podcaster. She hosts the 10 Things to Tell You podcast and is the author of 2 books. She grew up in Oklahoma and moved to Los Angeles sight unseen when she was 22 years old and worked in the film and television production industry for many years before moving into full-time writing and pursuing full-time writing, where she transitioned into sharing her life online and particularly focusing on friendship, anxiety, motherhood, and marriage. And all of her work, her writings, her podcasts really resonate with women who are looking for ways to connect with other women more deeply. So she and her husband and their 2 kids still live in Los Angeles. So today, Laura and I are talking about friendship in midlife. And we cover a variety of topics in today's conversation, but she talks about her experience with loneliness and going through a season without friends. And then she shares about how friendship does change with the seasons of life and that it's good for us to be forward thinking about what we can expect out of our friendships, both now as well as in the future. So whether we're in midlife or not quite there yet, or even past that. And she encourages us in today's conversation to flex the muscle of putting effort into our friendships and really asks us to default to saying yes more than we say no with our friendships, with our relationships. And she talks about the reason for that, or reasons for that, in our conversation. She also talks about the value of consistency in friendships and her belief that women in midlife actually do that really well. So that's definitely a good, encouraging part of our conversation. And she also shares about the changes that she's seen in her own friendships as she moves further into midlife. So I'm so excited for you to join me and to listen into today's conversation with Laura Tremaine. Laura, what a privilege to have you with me today. I am so grateful to have you join me for the Courage Becomes Her podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you. So we're going to talk about kind of midlife and friendship together here in a moment, but let's get to know you first and have the Courage Becomes Her community get to know you. So first and foremost, where is home? And tell us a little bit about home life.
I live in Los Angeles. I've been here for 22 years after growing up in a really small town in Oklahoma. So I live in the heart of LA, actually in Hollywood, with my husband and our 2 kids. My daughter is 13. My son is 11. And we are just squarely in midlife, mid-family life with, these teenagers and preteens and careers and sports and all the things. That is kind
All
of
the things.
the season I am in, is that very busy one.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, so good. I loved being able to watch some of your summer activities. You guys took a fun trip, got to go to Wimbledon, which is just so incredible.
We did. We
Love it.
took my dad. My dad turned 80 this year, and he is a lifelong tennis fan. And it would have been on his bucket list to go to Wimbledon, except I think, he just never would have made that trip happen for himself. He's not a big
Mm,
traveler. And I knew that if we could pull something together, that it would mean the world to him. And also it would just be fun for all of us. So we did a
so
very
much. Yeah.
fun, big trip to London this summer that was kind of centered around a day spent at Wimbledon. And it was just as magical as we wanted it to be. It was amazing.
That's incredible. So fun. So fun. Okay. Along those lines, what has made you laugh or filled your cup in the last day or so?
Well, actually, as we're recording this, I am still recovering from, I hosted my very first, I called it the Secret Summit. It was a gathering of people from my membership community. This is not a plug for my membership community. This is just actually what has truly filled my cup. I started this 3 years ago, and it's sort of just an offshoot of my own podcast and work.
Mm.
And it has been my favorite thing, my favorite part of my job, my favorite thing that I do on the internet. I love it so much. And after 3 years, it felt like it was time for us to come out from behind our screens and meet in
Nice.
person.
Oh, yay.
So I hosted a weekend here in Los Angeles, and 40 women from that community came, and we just spent 24 hours together. We shared meals, and we did some activities,
Mm.
and we just had the best time. It was so worth it. I'm a big believer in that we can change one another's lives through a screen. Like, I really
Yeah.
believe that.
Yeah.
But the in-person connection, it's just, you cannot compete with that. And so
No.
I was beside myself. It has filled my cup. I'm still recovering, like, mentally and emotionally, but I feel like I will live like off of that high for months
Yes.
because it was that fun.
So good. I love that you did that. That's just so beautiful. Okay. How about a current obsession of yours in any category?
Oh goodness. I feel like I have obsessions of all stripes all the time. But my current obsession is actually something I've been teaching on because I've been newly obsessed with it. I've been a lifelong journaler, like since
Hmm.
I was a teenager, my daughter's age.
Yeah.
But like I go in and out. Like some years I journal more, some years are busy and I barely journal at all. And in the last couple of years, probably since the pandemic, honestly, I really felt like I wanted to reconnect with that practice, like more
Mm.
regularly. And I've tried out all different types of journals and journaling, and I just can't say enough about it. This summer, I did a birthday journal. I have a June birthday, and I did a birthday journal where just for 1 week, I sort of just did a lot of like looking back, like reflection, but also sort of
Mm.
some dreaming and also some venting and like all the things. And I am like now a proponent of the birthday journal, of like just taking, it's like a
Mm.
sort of special, sort of its own thing. I could talk about, literally,
Yeah.
we could do this whole episode about journaling. That's how obsessed I
Yes.
am, if you're going to ask one of my obsessions. But I just
Yeah.
feel like journaling gets a bad rap. Like people think, oh, that's only for certain
Mhm.
personality types or,
Yep.
young girls or like whatever. And I feel like it can
Yes.
be the best tool for your growth, for, coping mechanisms, like anything. And
Mhm.
it's virtually free because you can use any kind of notebook that you already have like
That's
lying
right.
around. And so, if you can't do therapies or courses or whatever it is that you're going through, buying
Yeah.
books, anything, anybody can journal. And so
Yeah.
I'm like a sort of obsessed with it.
I'm so, so loving that. It's a wonderful thing to be obsessed with for sure. Okay, tell us about your Enneagram and your love language.
Okay, I am a very solid Enneagram 1. My caveat here is that I do not love the Enneagram.
Uh-huh.
And I say that not to disparage the people who are super into it. I have many friends that are very, very into it. It has been fantastic, like growth tool for them, or just
Yeah.
insightful into their own psyche. But I always give sort of the caveat that I'm not super into it because it is such a craze that I kind of just want to give people permission to not be into it.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
But then also, what's funny about it is every time I say something along those lines, people who are into the Enneagram are like, oh, that sounds just like a 1. Like to not be into it. Um,
Yes.
so I guess I'm playing right into the whole structure. I am an Enneagram
There you
1.
go.
Every time I read about it, it resonates. Like I have taken the tests. Like I feel like that is a proper, diagnosis of my personality. And then my love language is, I would say, it has changed over the course of my life, but I feel like
Mm,
quality time
mm,
has been
mhm.
my strongest love language for, maybe the last 15-ish years, maybe since I had kids. I feel like, maybe when we're younger, if it is fluid at all, because I think we all have, we all like all types of love, but
For
like
sure.
physical affection used to be more important to me. And then when you're a mom and you get a little
Mhm.
bit touched out, that becomes like less important. Um, Gifts have never been a huge one for me. Oh, I know the other big one that is really big. Words of affirmation.
Yeah.
I feel like words of affirmation, I've gone through phases where that has been more or less important to me
Mm.
over the years. But it's definitely in the top. But lately, I think maybe just because of the family stage I'm in, quality time feels like the most important
Yeah.
way to love or be loved on.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think there is something to that. I think for stage of life, I really like that you said that. I think that makes a lot of sense for sure. Okay. How about best movie or show that you've watched in the last year-ish?
I got really into Abbott Elementary. Have you watched that?
Oh, no. I don't even know if I've heard of it.
It's a TV show and
Okay.
it's like a comedy. It's it's I don't know if I would call it a dark comedy. It has a little bit of dark humor, but it's like a half-hour comedy. Like it's like a short, it's kind of one of the reasons I like it because you can kind of binge it or you can just watch one episode and not, hasn't taken up that much time. But it's super smart, it's super funny. It is very much a social commentary on the America public school system
Okay. Okay.
because it's
Good.
set in a poorly funded elementary school in Philly. And so the main characters are the teachers and the administrator, I guess. And it's
Okay.
funny, but like I said, there's a lot of social commentary that I think is really relevant. This is very smart.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, having been a public school kid myself, I will check that out. Thank you. Okay. How about your first concert? What was the first concert that you ever went to?
Okay, so I cannot exactly remember the artist, which does that ruin the question? But I remember the feeling very well. So I grew up in a really small town in Oklahoma. So we didn't get a lot of like artists super
Yeah.
close to us. It wasn't a stop for them. But my town had a big rodeo every year. And so the first concert I went to was like a country music concert at the rodeo. And I just remember like it was so fun. Everyone was like decked out, country music. It might have been Clay Walker, but I almost hesitate to say that for sure because I might be misremembering that. But it was like a 90s, a
Sure.
90s
Yeah.
country music star. And I remember just the feeling actually of live music and yeah, it was
So
great.
good. So good. Well, and that's funny too, because I watched your most recent, don't remember the exact name of it, but where you had everybody do a song that brought about a
Hmm.
certain memory or was a certain time in life. And I remember you saying like that you're the worst at remembering song titles, group names, or musician names, or, things like that. And I'm like that as well, like just so horrible. Cannot think of that at all. Whereas
Yeah.
my husband or my sister, like, I go to them for all of that.
Yeah.
So totally get it. Okay, last one. I know you are a huge reader. I've loved listening to your episodes where you review the books that you've read. So tell us a book that has transformed your life.
A book that has transformed my life. Okay, well, there's a lot of those. I'm trying to think what
I
I should
know.
even go with. But okay, so I'm going to give two answers because one is off the beaten path and one is, a lot of people might resonate with. The first book that really changed my life was from the fourth grade, and it was Stephen King's book, It. It's a horror
Mm-hmm.
book. 10-year-olds should probably not be reading it, but I did read it, and it changed my whole life. I'm a Stephen King fan. I run a whole book club around Stephen King.
Yep.
But that book, which is about friendship, again, it's horror. It's not even, it's about little kids, but it's not for little kids. But I think it was the first time I had been reading mostly kiddie style books, because again, I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was the first time that I really felt like I understood what storytelling could be.
Uh-huh.
And obviously, you go on then to read more advanced things or more adult things, but that was the first one.
Yeah.
That was the first, and it was quite a leap to graduate from, kiddie books to Stephen King, but it was such a seminal moment in my life that I talk about it all the time, and still I'm a huge Stephen King fan. So that's the first one. The second answer is maybe more relevant to your listeners, which is Brene Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I read that book, and they've re-released it now. There's like a 20th anniversary or 10th anniversary or something.
Yeah.
But I read it for the first time. I remember where I was. It was in the summertime. I'm pretty sure it was 2016. It might have been 2015. And it really transformed the way that I showed up in the world, actually.
Yeah.
And I would have never identified with the word shame. A lot of her work revolves around the word shame, but that book in particular is a real deep dive. I would have thought, no, I don't have like a specific childhood trauma, or I don't have some big secret or something. I would have associated the word shame with that kind of thing. And then when you read this book and you realize like, oh no, we all have shame. I mean, everybody, like you have just daily small types of shame. You have messaging from culture or authority figures or whatever. And it really sort of let me feel my feelings, or let me really like tell my story in a way I never would have before, because we do reserve sometimes a lot of these big words or things around something dramatic or traumatic. And I felt like she sort of gave a lot of voice to the small t traumas in our lives, like the little things that have happened that really do add up and really do inform who we are. And, you don't have to have like Dateline level dramatic things in your life to have stuff you need to work through, and that, that you have shame around. And I guess at the time, now a lot of people speak about, she really was such a pioneer. A lot of people speak in this way, but when I read it, it was new information to me.
Totally.
And so it did transform my life, truly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it was definitely very groundbreaking, if you will, in a lot of senses, for sure. I do love that in Share Your Stuff, I'll go first. You have your list of, I think, what you call it, 10 books that kind of created your worldview or shaped your worldview. I loved that list. That was really, really helpful as well.
Yes.
So I'll link obviously to the book, but you can get that as well. So, well, thank you. Thank you for letting us get to know you. I appreciate that so much. Yeah. Okay, so you've written 2 books. The first one, Share Your Stuff, I'll go first. The second one that came out earlier this year, The Life Council. Both just wonderfully personable, relatable, transparent, really exceptionally written books, well written books, but also just so thoughtful for where women are at. So we're going to weave together kind of the topics of friendship and midlife. But before we really kind of dive into that, I'd love us to first just kind of talk about your heart. And you have such a heart, such a passion for us to authentically share our lives with each other. And you do go first, and you are so willing to open up about, as you said a moment ago, the, traumas, even the little ones that do add up and have added up in your life. So maybe just fill us in a little bit of, why is that? Why is this your heart? Why is this, an area that you're just so passionate about?
Well, I mean, this is a multi-layered answer, but I think that I didn't even know I was passionate about this until I started a blog back in 2010. So I had a newborn at the time, and I kind of classified it as a mommy blog, even though, and that was, the height of mommy blog years, even
Yeah.
though I wasn't necessarily writing about parenthood. I was, sharing what was going on in my life. Like I said, I had a newborn. I lived in Los Angeles. And one of the things that I wrote about pretty consistently at the time was that I was lonely, was that I did not have very many friends in LA. I had grown up with a ton of friends in my small town. I had gone to college, had a lot of college friends. I had summer camp friends from childhood. Like, I had always had a lot of friends, and I did have friends when I moved to LA. I worked in film and television for a while. And so I had like a lot of work friends, but we would also go out. So I considered them friends. Once I had a baby, I realized that I did not have like deep personal relationships in LA.
Yeah.
And so this was a thing that I blogged about. Now, I was blogging about it not like to garner sympathy or anything. I just was like, isn't this interesting that I live in this city of 10 million people, where you would think there would be a million opportunities to make friends? I was doing all the right things. I was going to mommy groups, and, I was doing these things. I was making an effort.
Yeah.
And I did not have the type of girlfriends that I was picturing in my adulthood. Well, the more that I wrote about that, and that was just like one of many things I wrote about in that season. But when I would write about that, I would get a huge response from people, mostly other women, oftentimes also parents, who felt the same way. They were lonely in a new city. They were lonely in the city they grew up in. They were lonely in parenthood. They were lonely, in their career. They didn't have a partner, wherever their loneliness stemmed from. They were shocked at the time. The internet's changed a lot since 2010, but at the time that I on the outside, had this really beautiful and amazing life, which I did and do, but that I was saying, y'all, I don't have any friends. The fact that I was sharing that really brought up a lot of people to say, me too. I don't have very many friends, or I don't have the types of friends I want, or whatever. And so as I started to write more about that, or sort of connect with that, as several themes kept coming up, and this was long before I wrote books about it, but several things kept coming up about people who felt like, because blogging was the big thing back then, it'd be akin to social media now, but like, people felt like they couldn't share their true selves, not just online, but also even in person. They felt like they had to be protective of a career. They had to be protective of a spouse, of their reputation, all kinds of very valid reasons that people felt like they couldn't share. And I was like, these things are directly related.
Yeah.
The loneliness piece and the lack of feeling like we can really be our truest selves. These two things are related.
Totally.
And so I just started talking sort of more and more about that. I also realized as I was talking about it that, for some people, sharing themselves is just more natural than it is for other people. And sharing myself has never been like a problem. Like, I've always been a talker. I've always liked to tell stories. Like, I've always been opinionated, like all the things. So sharing for me was natural. And so it almost felt like, and because I had this blog, it almost felt like I can model what this looks like. Like sharing yourself. And then this went on to my podcasts and everything. I've had several podcasts at this point, but like sharing yourself does not mean, I think people think it means like exposing the skeletons in your closet, or it means being extra vulnerable, or people think, oh, I don't want to share anything. And I'm like, no, there's so much of a happy medium. When I'm encouraging people to share, I am for sure not encouraging you to share something that would be uncomfortable, that would be damaging to your life or to other people in your life. Like, we can share ourselves as a way to be seen and known and to see and know others. We can do that in a way that is not so scary. And so literally since then, that has been the whole of my work, is talking about sharing, talking about loneliness, talking about friendship. All of these themes are very interconnected. It's what my podcast is about, and it's what both of my books are about.
I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for speaking into it and modeling the way. Those are just, so critical for us. So I think as we kind of look at it in terms of midlife, so I work with a lot of women who are super busy, and honestly, friendship ends up kind of moving to the bottom of the list because they just don't have time for it, which I think is pretty common, especially for busy moms, women who are working both inside and outside of the home. But what I see happen a lot is they get close to or into retirement, or they get to the empty nest phase of life. And like you said a minute ago, there ends up being this big loneliness, this big gap that opens up because they start to have more time. And so they realize, oh, there's, something missing for me in my life. And they had these communities, like you said a minute ago, through work, through various things that they were a part of in their lives that just aren't there anymore. So I'd love for you to speak into kind of how can we help the women who maybe aren't quite there yet, aren't quite to the empty nest, aren't quite to the retirement years, but can be thinking about, okay, what do I need to be doing in my friendships today to make sure when I do get to those stages that I'm not winding up lonely and having this huge gap, this huge void in my life.
I love this question because it is forward thinking. It's like realizing that what we pour into right now does pay dividends and will matter like in a decade. And there's a few different ways to think about it. Now, I do not think that all friendships are going to go the distance or should. So I don't know that you are necessarily going to pour into a friendship now, looking forward to the next decade. Now, a lot of us can discern the friends that are going to be there for a long time, and some that may be situational. And so instead, I would encourage people to really flex the muscle of putting effort into your friendships, either new or existing ones, that like noticing now that it's going to take some effort to get together, defaulting to yes instead of no. I know there's a lot of memes out there that encourage us to say no from a self-care perspective. And they're speaking to this crowd we're talking about. They're speaking to busy, overworked, exhausted women who do need to, put ourselves first. And I get that. I also think that has swung a little bit too far to a point that it's damaging our relationships when you always default no, or when you put up these self-imposed boundaries around your activities or your sleep or your commitment. That's fine for a season. It's fine if you really need to hunker down and really take care of things, but you have to understand that will come at a cost at some point.
Yeah.
that you have to default, or at least if it's not a default, make sure that you're saying yes more than you're saying no to relationship,
Mm.
because it really matters. Like somehow along the way, it became acceptable to not go to friends like birthday parties or promotion dinners or whatever. It became socially acceptable to be like, I have to get a certain amount of sleep. That's more important than celebrating your thing.
Mm.
Or I don't want to go to your, thing that you're participating in because it's going to be boring. And I'm going to
Mm.
support you instead by just sending you a quick supportive text. Okay, well, no, that is not relationship.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go to boring dinners. Sometimes you have to go to birthday celebrations that are going to make you tired the next day. Like, I don't know. There is a tipping point when we put up so many boundaries about how important we are that cuts us off from relationship.
Mm.
So when you are flexing your muscle of learning to say yes to things, to show up to friends, to try and make a new friend, to put something together, that will serve your life so well in all
Yes.
the decades to come. And then the second thing is that I always tell people to do, because the little speech I just gave might feel a little too effortful for people right now. Like you might be like, oh, I'm too busy to that just seems like a lot to take on. So the other thing that I always tell people do, one of the things that changed my life, got me out of that season of loneliness I talked about, was to start something that meets regularly already. So
Yeah.
I don't care what that is, a book club, a knitting club, girls' night out. It does not matter. You
Yeah.
pick a thing that you want to do once a month or once a quarter, whatever works for you. And then you put that thing on the calendar and it doesn't change. So that the first Saturday of every month, the first Thursday of every month, every single March, July, and October, it does not matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But once
Yeah.
it's there, that is literally like 80% of the battle,
Yeah.
because you've already picked a time, you've already committed to it, you've invited the people, whoever comes or doesn't come. You're almost committing to the time slot as much as you are committing to
Mm-hmm.
the people. And again, this is something that will pay such dividends in your life, because you don't have to recreate the wheel every single month. If it was on me to have to be like, what fun thing can I do with my friends this month? I mean, nothing would ever happen.
Yes.
I'm not going to take time to research fun things to do in my city
Yeah.
like every 3 weeks. I mean, if you have a friend that does that, God bless them. I actually do have a friend that kind of is like that. And I love her so much. And I'm so glad she's in our friend group, because she is like, let's do this fun thing. And we all can say yes to it. But I am not going to do that. And
Yeah.
so my having a book club that meets at a certain time every single month. And what we do is we read a book and then we talk about it.
Yeah.
All of those decisions are already made. I can have it on my calendar every month for months in advance. And, when you get to a year of having met monthly, that is relationship.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
built something with those other people.
Mm.
And then and that's how you do it. So those two ways, which is like saying yes more than you're saying no, like really noticing that you have to make an effort into relationship, and then also having something that's very consistent on the calendar that you're not having to come up with anew all the time. Those two things, no matter what age you are, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s,
That's right.
those two things will help you.
Yes. Yeah. 100% agreed. I love too that I think that ties to one of your philosophies of just go. Like you
Yep.
basically kind of talked about that as well. And in that you talk about like the idea of regret. And I think for those of us who are in midlife, what I hear and see and personally feel is regret becomes far more pronounced in us when we're in our 40s and 50s and 60s than when we're young. And so I love that you pulled that out, that you think about ask yourself, am I going to regret not going? Am I going to regret not saying yes to that? And I love and appreciate so much that you bring that out and remind us to look at it through that lens, if you will.
Yeah.
Hello, friends. Okay, don't press that fast forward button. I have two important things that I want to just pop in here super quick to tell you. First and foremost, you're going to want to stick around to the end of today's episode for a special announcement, something that I am so excited to introduce you to, and a new thing that is launching that you are going to want to be a part of and don't want to miss out on. So stick around for that at the end of the episode today. And I just, again, want to give a huge shout out and thanks to all of you for supporting the Courage Becomes Her community and being a part of this community. I am so grateful for you to be here and for all of the sharing and rating and reviewing that you do. It means so much to me. This week, I particularly want to thank Lisa, Tracy, Robin, Melanie, Kathy, Rhonda, Connie, the National Upholstery Association, Jody, Renee, and Charla. So thanks so much, and let's get back to the conversation with Laura. Okay, so you talked a little bit about some of your guidelines that you have for making friends, and I think that to me is like that is so important when we look at these seasons where, as you said, like, you know, our friends may not stay with us for, 10 years, 20 years, that sort of thing. So what else within the guidelines for making friends, which I'll say you have 3 of them. You talked about consistency is key. You said that one already. Keep your eyes open and let it be loose. So for midlife, like, are there nuances of your guidelines that might, come into play for us in midlife?
I actually think midlife women already do that part better. Like, I feel like we've often already learned that consistency is key.
Yeah.
I guess that one place we could maybe pay a lot of attention to is let it be loose. So when you're coming out of a lonely period, a friendship drought, or when you have very limited time, and so you're going to you're going to make the effort, but you don't have like a lot of time.
Yeah.
Regardless of what our circumstances are, we can maybe cling too tightly to the result. So if we're going to carve out the time to go to the local book club, we darn well, it better be amazing, or if we're going to put effort into making new friends, like we don't let it be loose, because one of the things we might be feeling a little bit in midlife is what you said, regret. We're feeling the anxiety of time passing. Like we start to feel like, okay, well, I got to make everything count, which is great qualities of midlife, is that we're starting to really, we are really starting to pay attention to how we spend our time and energy. But it can also backfire on us in a friendship sense of like, well, if we don't have a friendship connection, or it doesn't seem reciprocated, or it wasn't as fun as we thought, or something like that, then we feel like it was all a waste. And that's just not true. Like, trying to let it be loose, keeping like expectations low, like, hey, I'm going to try this new club or this thing. I'm going to try to get together with this new person, but I'm not going to like hold it so tightly that I believe she's going to be my best friend, or that this is my new circle of besties that I've found, or, this is the thing that's going to save all of my loneliness.
Yeah.
That is too high a pressure. That's too high stakes.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like maybe that might be like a midlife idea, to pay more attention to letting it be loose, because I know in the stage of life I'm in right now, everything feels precious. This is the last year of elementary school with my son. This is the first time I'll ever do something with my daughter. This is, my husband and I's whatever. Like everything feels precious. Everything feels important.
Yeah.
That's a lovely place of gratitude to be, but also it can when the stakes are so high like that, well, guess what happens? Mama has a meltdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're
Yeah.
putting so much expectation on whatever the experience is. And if it doesn't go that way, we feel like we've messed everything up or we've wasted our time and money. And so in a friendship sense, the same can be true. Like, I'm going to invest in this girls' weekend. I want it to be great. Of course we do. But holding everything loose, new friendships, joining new clubs, putting ourselves out there, social media, all the things. I think that most midlife women that I know could maybe loosen their grip sometimes. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this might be exactly where I am. I'm 44. I have friends that are ahead of me into their 50s, and their grip has loosened. Like, you know what I mean? This
Yes.
might just be they're like, they don't hold anything tightly, because
Yes.
that's where life has brought them. So I really do think, like, this takes a little bit of examination. Like, am I holding this too tightly because I'm feeling the passage of time slipping away and I'm feeling this all very deeply? Or have I or have I maybe let it all be a little bit too loose?
Yeah.
And maybe there should be some intentionality a little bit.
That's good. That's such a good reminder of just, being able to stop and assess kind of, where are we at? And I love that one of the things I love about midlife, and you've just alluded to it, is that perspective. We have so much different and better perspective in midlife than we did when we were young. And so it does give us that ability to show up more generously, show up different, show up, in a place that's more forgiving, which, oh Lord, do we need that today, more than ever. So just, yeah, being present, all of those things. So yeah, I really, really love that so much. Kind of tagging on to that or coupling that with your philosophy around like every selfie. Like, I still see that being a challenge for all age groups, midlife and otherwise. So how, I think, again, our perspective is getting better and growing as we get older, but we still have this thing about just not leaning into promoting our friends, participating in, a generous way, particularly as it comes to social media. So what would be your thoughts on that, and how can we do better on that one?
So this is one of the things that I write about in the Life Council that has gotten the most reaction. People have, like, real strong feelings on my
Yeah,
friendship philosophy to like every selfie. Now, I write about this as, like, literally. This can also sort of be metaphorically if you're not on
sure.
social or not on social much or
Yeah,
something like that. Cheering on our friends is like the lowest possible bar. Like, giving them a little like, little comment is so easy. And yet, a lot of us have feelings about the selfies that come through our feeds. Now,
yeah.
there can be feelings that are jealousy when
Mm-hmm.
a selfie comes through our
Mm-hmm.
feed.
Yeah.
There can be feelings of, comparison, which is to jealousy. There can be feelings of, like, who does she think she is? Like, it's tacky to post so many selfies. We have, like, a lot of either conditioning or our own junk that we bring to the judgments that we feel when people are talking too much about themselves with, like, a literal selfie, like a literal picture of themselves, or just if they're promoting their thing that they're doing or all the fun they're having or their beautiful
Yeah.
home or, whatever it is that we feel like, ugh, when it comes through our feed.
Yeah.
And what I have noticed is that when you withhold your selfies, your likes, when you withhold your likes or your comments, and sometimes we withhold it, like, I am not liking that. Like,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
only
Indignant.
person that matters to is us. The
Mm-hmm.
person does not know that you withheld your like they don't know. And so what it is doing is it affecting our own sense of self and our own sense of judgment or, like, ickiness factor, jealousy. It's only affecting us. The woman that is posting her selfies or posting her beautiful life. Look, if you don't like it, it's not your cup of tea, you think she's being disingenuous or fake or whatever, then unfriend that person or hide them or unfollow.
Yeah.
But when we have this snag in our spirit, is kind of what I like to say, when we see something that comes through our feed consistently and it makes us feel some kind of way, it makes us feel like we don't like our own life or our own looks or our own career.
Yes.
To just pay attention to it for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not about that other person. Liking every selfie is just the lowest way to cheer on your friends. There's also no bar for liking it, even if you don't actually like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, that's not the outfit I would pick, but she's feeling herself. I'm happy for her. You can like it. There is no like police out there. I feel like women get so tangled up in this, actually. And I do think like a huge, large percentage of it is envy. But there's other stuff in there too. It's not all envy. You might not wish to be any part of that person, but it brings up our own sort of inadequacy of, well, I would never post myself like that. Or if I posted the same type of post, my mom, sister, bestie, neighbor would judge me so hard. So then we pass on our own judgment to that person.
Yes.
Like there's just so many tangles here that I felt like when I wrote about as a friendship philosophy to like every selfie, I really just wanted to draw people's attention to what was happening when they were scrolling.
That's right. Yeah.
And to just notice, am I feeling jealous? Am I feeling snarky? When you do start to, I've kind of given this as an exercise, take a week or a weekend or whatever, and really do like or comment like liberally, like just like you look beautiful, whatever. Tell me if you enjoy your online experience better when you do that than when you just scroll and snark to yourself.
That's right.
I guarantee you will have a much better time. You will have a much more fun notifications in your notification bar when you are just like, you look amazing, trip looks fabulous, what a gorgeous home, like.
Yeah.
It's not fake or inauthentic to do that. I mean, unless you're purposely really doing something inauthentic, but like just to like be kind and show a little love to someone in like the most, like the easiest, most base way to do it.
Yes.
I promise it will change your online experience for them and for you, by the way. It's like very contagious.
Yeah. 100% agreed. I love that so much. Oh gosh. Okay. I'm running out of your time. So last question, what changes are you noticing in your friendships, as you move into midlife?
So like I said, my kids are 13 and 11. So I am moving I'm sort of still a little bit in that transition of, in my mom friend world, which in LA, that's my primary group of friends right now, are fellow mom friends.
Yeah.
We've gone from that stage where like they were supervised play dates. So you were there, they were there, you're both at the park, you're both at the pizza place, whatever, where you actually have time to chat with the other mom. Well, now, I mean, at 13 and 11, like we are drop off city over here. Like there's a lot less interaction, which when that first started happening, and, we lost a few years to the pandemic there with my kids. So maybe this felt more accelerated, but when that first started happening, it was like freedom. I can just drop my kid off and like go do an errand or something. I don't have to sit with the other mom or whatever at a play date. But then I started to realize like, oh no, actually like this is lessening a connection. Sure, I get my errands done, but like I kind of miss an hour of just chit-chatting.
Yeah.
So I'm now out of that, like completely out of that, and sort of noticing, okay, I'm in a phase where I have to make more of an effort. I need to put together a mom's night out after the volleyball game, or, it's so easy to just go your own separate ways. You pick up your kiddo, you go to the game, you rush to get home for dinner. There's homework, there's, bath time. I mean, we're out of bath time because again, they're older, but there's to-dos.
Yeah.
And now I am realizing like, oh, if I want to keep these mom friends that I made circumstantially, they were other sports moms or other school moms. Now I have to try.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're not just sitting in the bleachers together. Now I really have to like make an effort. And so that's where I am in my friendships. I will also say a midlife moment in friendships for me, as the mom friends time has waned a little, I've spent more and more time connecting with work friends. Now, my work friends are primarily online.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not in Los Angeles. We're not local to one another. But I feel like when the kids were littler, I was all in on mom friends and work friends were peripheral a little bit. And now this has swapped. My primary people I talk to daily are peers and colleagues. Yeah. And then I see my mom friends once or twice a month. So it's definitely been like a pretty rapid switch. I'm okay with it. It feels like the right stage.
Mm-hmm.
But because I write about friendship, I'm noticing it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us, encouraging us. So our last question, who or what is inspiring courage in you right now?
Okay, well, speaking of work colleagues, my dear friend Bree McCoy just released a cookbook. I don't know if you know Bree. She just put a cookbook out called The Cook's Book. And she's inspiring me on a personal level because we're friends and she's launching a book and she's doing a great job. But she's also inspiring me because her book itself is really teaching you to be more confident in the kitchen. Mm. And I'm coming off of these years. I wrote 2 books, pandemic life, my kids were schooling from home. Like I'm coming off of these years of a lot of intensity. And it made me realize like we've done a lot of takeout. We've done a lot of convenience meals, just like quick, whatever, heat up things. And Bree has really inspired me to cook more for my family, that I'm able to do it. It doesn't take as much time, it takes a little bit of prep, but the prep is mental. It's not as, she's just really been inspiring me the way that she talks about feeding your family. And I've just been taking so much from it. So I wanted to share about her. She's also fabulous on social. Her book is fabulous. Like it's been very inspiring to me.
Oh, so good. So good. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today and just helping us to grow and learn. Much appreciated.
Well, this was so fun. Thanks so much.
It was. Thank you. I am so challenged by Laura saying that the scales have tipped too far in the direction of us saying no to times and opportunities with friends rather than saying yes. And I love that. And I embrace that so much. I know I am personally guilty of that. And I'm really going to lean into her challenge to us to make sure that we are saying yes, even when it means that we're, maybe sacrificing some self-care. So I love that she brought that up and so grateful that she did. Okay. Friendship. So obviously Laura and I talked a lot about friendship today. And if you want to hear more on friendship from mid-July to the end of August, episodes 45 through 51 are all about friendship. They cover different seasons of life, friendship, how to make friendship last a lifetime, and how to do life with friends, long distance, and kind of everything in between. So go back and make sure that you check out those episodes on friendship. We will next week continue the conversation as well about midlife. But I told you that I have an announcement today, and I am just so excited about this. So, if you've listened to episodes throughout Courage Becomes Her long enough, that one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because we often feel like we are alone in life's challenges. And I am delighted, absolutely delighted, and so excited to let you know that my friend Sarah McDaniel, Simply Southern Cottage Sarah, who joined us back on June 27th, episode 42, that Sarah has started a sisterhood, the Simply Southern Sisterhood, which is a membership community for women, for us to gather together and to be able to navigate life together so that we are not alone on our journeys. And I am just so excited for her to do this and to offer this to women everywhere, and to have us as the Courage Becomes Her community be able to participate in this as well. So up until October 1st, she is offering a special membership for founding members. So I've got the link in the show notes for that, but you definitely are going to want to be a founding member. The cost to join is just ridiculously cheap, like basically like, a nice cup of coffee, a latte. So definitely you're going to want to do that. So the Simply Southern Sisterhood will have monthly in-depth discussions on very critical topics. We'll have live sessions with Sarah and guest experts that will be joining her. And it just is going to be this amazing opportunity to be in a supportive community of like-minded women where we will be encouraged and inspired. So really just take so much of what we've done in Courage Becomes Her and brings it to life in an actual interactive and participatory way. So I am delighted and so excited to be a founding member and to be a part of the Simply Southern Sisterhood. And so I would love for you to join us on that as well. So again, link in the show notes. And as always, I'm so grateful for Laura joining us today. You can connect with her. All of the links for her are in the show notes. So please take the time to do that today and to become familiar with her. And her books are really great. I know I said that in the beginning of the conversation with her, but highly recommend them. So thanks so much. And again, we'll be back next week with another conversation about midlife. What an honor to help you to cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in your life and work. Thank you so much for inviting me to journey with you. I look forward to being back with you next week, where we'll hear another story from a woman whom I love and am inspired by and look forward to learning from.